Hi everyone, I'm Emma. I'm a student at Black Hills State University. I'm a senior studying mass communications. I'm going to be talking a little bit about a case that happened about 2 years ago in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I find mysteries and things like that not only interesting but also important to share. So I've been doing some research on a case involving a little girl named Serenity Dennard. If you're from the Black Hills area or went to school here or keep up with some kind of local news in South Dakota, I'm sure you've heard about Serenity. She went missing about 2 years ago, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about her history and the case and theories about it, and hopefully we can kind of learn more about this case. So let's dive right into it. The little girl, Serenity June Dennard, was born in May of 2009. So we're going to start with her background to kind of give you guys an idea of who she was as a person. I think that's really important to know about the little girl. I mean, she was a little girl, she is a little girl, we don't know really a ton of if she's alive or not. We're going to start with when she was about 2 years old. When she was 2, she was removed from the care of her biological parents, and she was put into the foster system. Later on, her birth parents were sent to prison. I'm not sure why, I'm not judging, I don't know their story, but all we know, and all I'm confident in saying, is that she was moved to the foster system. She was placed in about a dozen foster homes between the ages of 2 and 4. A dozen. That's a lot of homes, it's a lot of instability for a child. That has to be, I'm assuming, so rough on a little girl. She's still learning about this world and jumping from parent to parent. I'm sure it was not easy, and I think we're going to learn a little bit about how that affected her later on in life. In October of 2014, something really amazing happened. Chad and Darcy adopted Serenity after fostering her for several months. So I'm sure their family was just ecstatic about having another member. They were finally able to adopt her. However, something kind of went downhill. In 2015, Chad and Darcy actually got a divorce, which again is rough on kids. Chad got remarried to a woman named Cassandra, and they lived in Sturgis, South Dakota, with Serenity and 3 other kids. Darcy got remarried and now lives in Rapid Valley, South Dakota. So again, they're fairly close. I don't know the exact distance between the two of them, but it's not like they're like states away. They're within kind of a similar region of the Black Hills, which again is not a super big area, so they're close enough. Now, due to her years kind of being bounced from home to home, Serenity developed 2 different mental disorders. Now, disclaimer, I am not a psychologist. I don't know anything about these mental disorders. This is purely from the research that I received, that I looked up. So, to be honest, I don't know enough about this to make a ton of comments, so I'll let you guys kind of do your own research onto what these disorders do, but I'll give you a little bit of insight into what I understand them to really do. So the two disorders that she had was reactive attachment disorder, and from my understanding that basically means it's difficult for Serenity to form relationships with her caregiver. That makes sense. I mean, she was jumped from home to home in the foster system, so I'm guessing that would be really difficult to form a parental relationship. You know, I'm sure that would be almost impossible. The next thing was disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. Now, that basically, again, from my understanding, not a psychologist, it means like mood swings and drastic emotional changes. That could possibly be traced back to her childhood, I'm not sure. But again, those two mental disorders that I understand her to be diagnosed with, they're important to keep in mind because it does say about how her brain functions. Now, in July of 2008, the family basically mutually decided they wanted the best for Serenity, and after Serenity had run away multiple times, the family thought that maybe the best option for her was to go into a children's home. These children's homes are essentially to help the child develop life skills, things like that, in a safe and warm environment. Now, these kids that typically go here have past traumas and things like that, again, from my understanding, so I'm sure that Chad and Darcy and Cassandra, I'm sure they all thought this was probably for the best. I mean, it makes sense. I don't hold it. Some people kind of scrutinize them for setting Serenity to another home and some, you know, things like that. It's called Black Hills Children's Homes. I think it's been renamed since then. But they kind of scrutinized, the press and the public kind of scrutinized them for doing that. But from what I understand, it was honestly, they thought it was in Serenity's best interest. So no hate there, no judgment. I mean, this is what they thought was best for their child. So to me, that's completely honorable to send her to a place where they thought she was going to get the help she needed. Now, we're going to kind of jump into the timeline of Serenity's disappearance. So we've kind of recapped her history and essentially a gist of what Serenity was about. Obviously, there's a ton more about this little girl. The history that I recapped isn't everything about Serenity. There's so much more, and I think I've completely failed to present everything about her because I never met her. I don't know a ton about her, but I'll continue to remind you and remind myself that she isn't just a name on a piece of paper. She's a little girl, and sadly, a little girl who is missing. February 3rd, 2019 was when she disappeared. So again, that's like 2 years ago or so, right? So the morning that she ran away, it was in the mid-20s, and throughout the day it was going to continue to get colder and colder. Now, by 6 p.m. it was forecasted to be 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So if anyone's from the north, you know that that's really cold. If you've been in the Black Hills specifically, you know how weather can change really quick and how snow is likely to happen just kind of randomly. And it's the weather's not always super predictable in the mountains or in the hills, so this forecast was a little bit, you know, no one really knows, but it's supposed to be really cold. So people are kind of taking warning of this. I mean, it does get cold here a lot. It's not like that's a super rare temperature or anything like that, but it's cold, you know. And that's a really important piece in the story, as we'll realize later. So before 11 a.m., like a little bit before that, Serenity was in a group that was going to the gym of this children's home. And there's 2 employees that were working with several children. Now, I don't have the exact number of kids. It said several in a lot of the reports I read. I don't know if several means like, I don't know, 6, 7, or if it means like 12, or if it means 30. So keep that in mind. I don't know how many kids were actually being watched by these 2 employees. Previous to this point, Serenity had been in this, basically been under this rule. It was called arm's length. And what the arm's length rule meant was that Serenity couldn't be outside of arm's length of either of the employees. And the reason they did that is Serenity had actually a pretty long history of running away. Since she was pretty young, she would run away. And again, from the reports I read, it seemed like they indicate that she ran away to basically get attention of her parents and to feel loved and feel wanted and make them kind of worry so she would know that she's loved by them. Again, not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, not a doctor, I don't know. So, but that's what I understand. So from my understanding, she ran away to get attention. So they wanted to make sure she didn't run away and she didn't, you know, go off exploring or anything like that, so they wanted to keep her again within arm's length. However, this rule had been, for unknown reasons, I couldn't find any statements on why, but it was cut, no longer a thing. She no longer had to be within arm's length. And Serenity was a really smart little girl, and she took notice of her not having to be within arm's length of her, you know, of the employees pretty quickly. And when she realized that, she ended up making an alliance with another little child who was also at the children's home. And during this gym time, they made the plan of this little child, I don't remember if they're a girl or a boy, I'm not sure if it was stated, but this little kid basically distracting the employees while Serenity made a run for it. And it worked. Serenity made a run for it while the kid was distracting the employees. I don't know how they distracted the employees, but they did. And Serenity just booked it, and she ran out of the gym, down the main like pathway of the building, and north on the main road. Now there was one road that kind of like went along the, kind of like in front of the children's home. So she went north on that road, and that's when she disappeared. Now, a grandmother witnessed a lot of this, so that was really, it should have been more helpful. So the grandmother goes inside and tells one of the employees, hey, I just saw a kid book it that way, you know. Someone's running north on that road, and it's a little girl. And the employee, this is where there's a little bit of contention towards the children's home, because the employees apparently spent, let's see, well, they didn't really listen to the grandma right away. They kind of ignored her, and they checked around the facility itself. I'm a little confused on, I'm not trying to judge, because again, I wasn't in that situation, I wasn't the employees, I don't know their side of the story. Maybe they're just following protocol, I don't know, but if I heard a kid's running down a specific road right there, and a person just saw her, I'd imagine that you'd want to go and check. I'd imagine that you'd want to go run after the girl right away. But again, no hate, I don't know enough about the situation. I mean, I'm hearing it from a bunch of news reports. I think it was definitely a questionable decision. But again, hindsight is 2020. They spent an hour and 41 minutes looking around the facility, and then they decided maybe it's a good idea to call the police. So, almost 2 hours later, an hour and 41 minutes later, they call the police. The children's home is in the middle of the Black Hills, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the Black Hills is already pretty remote. Like, if you're in here, there's like Spearfish, Rapid, Deadwood, Lead, and then if you go farther down, there's, you know, Hill City and Custer and other towns, but these aren't, you know, thundering metropolises. These are small towns, you know, like, you have to kind of purposely go there, or, you know, to get there. It's not like you're gonna stumble across one unless you're following a main road. Basically what I'm saying is, if you're wandering through the forest, you're probably not gonna hit a town. So, after the about 2 hour delay, the police got there. So this is around 10:45 that Serenity ran away from the home. And then 12:26, according to my little paper here, 911 was called by the employees. So again, it's a little bit of extra time, but it is what it is. And then 12:45, 4 deputies arrived at the scene. And then about around 1:30, search and rescue was called in. So between 10:45 and 1:30, Serenity was just, well, obviously we still don't know where she is, but she had all that time to kind of move, do her thing, which is really scary. We don't know where she is. We don't know a lot. So the search and rescue, though, they went hard. They were ready for this. So they, like good search and rescuers, they brought in cadaver dogs, they brought in thermal cameras. Cadaver dogs are, both those, cadaver dogs and thermal cameras are really fairly common for missing people. And the reason why they use them, cadaver dogs, I think you can assume why. I don't think I have to spell that out for you. I think you're smart people. Thermal cameras, in case you aren't aware, those are basically, again, kind of what sounds like thermals or heat cameras. So they take pictures of heat. And what that means is, if you're in a cold forest and there's, you know, and it all comes up blue, then you see this one, like, red or yellow spot, that's something living, or something at least putting off heat. So that's the idea, is take a bunch of pictures. You can, some people use helicopters. I don't know if they use helicopters in this case or not, but you know, for helicopters, you'd fly over a big place and take pictures, and hopefully, if there is any heat signatures, the camera would pick it up, and you know that something's living there. And then I believe there's probably ones you can just physically take and move around. I don't know a ton about this, obviously, but they use them, and they know a ton about them, so I'm assuming they, you know, can do an adequate job. But nothing was found. They tried, they had so many volunteers, so many people helping, they tried so much stuff. Over the next, like, 4 months, it sounds like, there's over 1,200 people, volunteers, who came in to help search. They covered 4,500 miles, square miles in this search. That's a lot. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of miles, it's a lot of land. If you've been to the Black Hills, you don't just walk a mile and not have to jump over a log or duck under trees or, you know, bushwhack through brush and bramble. I mean, it's really forested. Even if you're not from the Black Hills, just imagine going to, like, a very hilly, I mean, there's cliffs, there's rivers, there's caves, there's tons of trees, there's bramble, there's just lots of stuff, lots of foliage and things to get through. So, imagine covering 1 square mile of that. There's a lot of places you probably couldn't get to. There's a lot of things that you could miss. Even with a ton of people covering that amount of square miles, I'm sure they're very thorough and did as well as obviously they could. That's just a lot of ground to cover. So, going like this a lot. Now, nothing turned up. No clothes, no anything, no hair, no blood or anything like that. Nothing turned up. Because of the delay, the children's homes, like I said, it was under like a lot of scrutiny. The parents were under a lot of scrutiny by both the public and the press. The parents, I don't find any fault in. I think they honestly did what they thought was the best. I'll stand by that opinion. I don't think they purposely did this. They didn't know she was going to go missing, and I think this is what they thought was the best for Serenity. So that's my opinion. You can have your own. I don't care. The children's home, I'm a little bit... That one, it's difficult. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I was already on my soapbox about that, but you can make up your own mind. I mean, what do you think about this children's home? Obviously, mistakes happen. This just seemed like a really severe mistake to happen. Okay, now there's two main theories. There's other theories, but I'm going to talk about two of them because I think they're the most talked about, at least. I mean, you got things like aliens and Bigfoot and all those things out there. For the sake of this, I'm not going to cover those. I don't think there's any valid proof of either of those. Correct me if I'm wrong. At least not in this case. I haven't heard of any evidence of either of those abducting her, so we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the two main theories I think are the most possible. Main theory, which is what the police think is true. Serenity, she probably ran off, like how she had done times before, and she ended up getting kind of turned around. You know, she veered off the main road, got turned around in the forest, and crawled into some place to keep warm via a cave or in a log, like behind a log or under a log. Something like that, where it made it really difficult to find her, therefore kind of impossible to find her. She succumbed to the cold and passed away. Like I said, it was going to get around 0 degrees out there. That's Fahrenheit. 0 degrees Fahrenheit out there, so that one seems pretty likely. I think if I was in Serenity's shoes, if I had run away as a little child, there wasn't. I think that checks out to me. To get lost. I mean, again, Black Hills is massive. Well, okay, not on like a grand scale, but if you're in it, it feels massive. And yeah, I mean, I could imagine easily getting turned around. I've gotten turned around, and luckily I've had my cell phone and things like that. But had not meant that, I could see getting lost being fairly easy, especially for a little girl. The other theory is essentially that while she was walking on that road, someone abducted her, essentially. Historically, Serenity never like ventured super far away from her home, so her leaving the main road and going off into the forest, it doesn't make a ton of sense for her, unless maybe she saw something in the forest, or she got distracted, something like that. But a lot of people say, well, she was just stay on that road, she just walked down that road, because she'd want to be found eventually, is what they're thinking. So maybe she walked down and kept walking down that road. Someone drove, again, there's one road there, someone drove up, took her and kept driving, or turned around, or whatever. This would have been kind of an opportunity kidnapping, is what I would imagine, because I couldn't imagine the kidnapper knew that Serenity was going to run away at that time, in that location. Seems pretty unlikely, so it would have just been someone random seeing her and then being like, I'm going to take her. There's creepy people out there, so I'm not saying it's impossible. The main thing that disputes this theory is that police, since there's no other vehicles have been reported driving down that road, so obviously, you know, I don't know if it's super likely. Okay, so what I want to end on is a little bit more about Serenity as a person. Like I said, in the history, I can only cover so much about her and about what she was like, but I'm going to try covering a little bit more just about things that she liked to give you maybe a better idea of who she is, who she was, I'm not sure, as a person. Her favorite color was purple. She was described as energetic, social, smart, she made friends easily, and she loved to sing and play outside. And so I'm sure she just loved exploring the Black Hills. I mean, playing outside. I love to play outside, and this is an awesome place for it. She loved babies and animals. So it just sounds like overall she was a really sweet little girl. I keep saying was, I just, at this point, I don't see it super likely that she's still alive. The possibility that she is still alive is why the family hired a private investigator, and this was around, I believe, like last year. It was like fairly recent they hired this private investigator. So overall, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys all about. So again, her name is Serenity Dennard. I'll put her picture here. If you guys have any information on her, please contact authority, tell someone, tell everybody, do something about it. Her family loves her, and I'm sure they're still so heartbroken. Tell people about this video, and have them watch it. Have as many people as you can watch this video. Not for me, but for Serenity, to hopefully help give a little bit of insight. Or there's a million videos out, well, not a million, there's like a few videos out there about Serenity. There's a few articles about Serenity. This has been covered in news and that kind of stuff, and they might be doing a lot better of a job than I am. But please don't let this video be the last that you research Serenity Dennard. She's disappeared, but don't let her name disappear too. So that's all I've got to say. I'm sorry it has to end on, I don't know if this is a sad note. I hope it's kind of at least a little hopeful. But please, you know, if you know anything, please tell somebody. And until next video, I will see you all later. Thank you.